Regarded by nearly everyone as one of the best movies ever made, Roman Polanski's masterpiece Chinatown is a must-see for any movie buff. The plot is a maze with deeply sinister undertones and stars the best actors of the time in Jack Nicholson, Faye Dunaway, John Huston, and just about everyone else in it. Memorable quotes abound in this film noir about the water wars of the early 20th century in Los Angeles. Written for the screen by Robert Towne, Chinatown is considered to be one of the most perfect screenplays ever written. Towne turned down a big payday to write the screenplay for The Great Gatsby, instead focusing on his own story, which became Chinatown. In 1937 Los Angeles, private detective Jake Gittes is hired by a woman to investigate whether her husband is having an affair. This sends Gittes down a rabbit hole as he slowly uncovers a vast conspiracy centering on water management, corruption, and murder. The making of the 1974 mystery film was as layered as the plot. With so many Hollywood powerhouses involved in this film, the stories that surround its development were inevitable. So let's take a look back at some behind-the-scenes trivia about Chinatown and the people that brought the movie to life. Robert Towne and Jack Nicholson were good friends, even roommates at one point, and they'd studied acting together. Towne has said repeatedly that he wrote the lead role specifically for Nicholson. Before John Huston was cast to play the villainous Noah Cross, he was actually offered the chance to direct Chinatown, but he turned it down. Prior to the hiring of Roman Polanski, the director's chair was also offered to the graduates Mike Nichols and Paper Moon's Peter Bogdanovich. At first, Roman Polanski didn't want to even make this movie. When Nicholson told Polanski about Towne's script, he had to convince him to come back to Los Angeles. 4 years earlier, Polanski's pregnant wife, Sharon Tate, and several of his friends had been killed in LA by the Manson family. This would be his first movie since his pregnant wife's death. Although the script was well written, Polanski needed to make big changes to it, including the ending. Towne's first version was 180 pages long, which would have made about a 3-hour movie, and it was very complex. When Polanski came to LA in the spring of 1973, he spent 8 weeks rewriting the script with Towne. They worked on it every day and fought every day, just about everything. Even the ending got a rewrite. Polanski needed a much more tragic ending, in which Evelyn Mulray is killed, and he got it. Polanski crafted the story structure, and Towne would write the dialogue. Polanski did so much work on the script, he could have easily gotten a writing credit for Chinatown. Towne ended up winning an Oscar for his screenplay, the only one of 11 nominations that came through for Chinatown, which was up against another masterpiece, The Godfather Part 2. One unique thing about this movie is that it's filmed entirely from Jake's perspective. He is in every scene, and there's no information that we learn before he does. When he gets a phone call, we hear the voice, but don't see the person at the other end. When he gets knocked unconscious in the orange grove, the movie fades with him, fading back in when he wakes up. To emphasize the point that we're seeing everything from Gittes' perspective, Polanski often put the camera behind Nicholson, so we see his back and shoulders. Robert Towne actually envisioned the film as the part of a trilogy. The second movie was 1990's The Two Jakes, and the third, which was never made, was going to be called Cloverleaf. The movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which came out in 1988, was also rumored to be tied to the Chinatown trilogy, borrowing from the third film, which was never made. It was clearly inspired by Chinatown. Not only was it set in 1930s Los Angeles, but it bore some obvious similarities, including a very similar detective storyline to the unproduced third movie. Roger Rabbit was adapted loosely from a 1981 novel titled Who Censored Roger Rabbit, and so it officially could not have been connected to the trilogy. The visual style of the film was absolutely gorgeous, but shortly after production began, the original cinematographer, Stanley Cortez, was fired because his style did not align with Polanski's vision. He wanted the movie to have a low-key, naturalistic feel, and he only had a few days to find a replacement, so he hired John Alonzo to finish the film. Some of Cortez's work remains in the movie, and it ended up being among his last work before he retired 4 years later. The name of Jack Nicholson's character, Jake Gittes, was named after Robert Towne's friend, producer Harry Gittes. The name Gittes was difficult for some to pronounce, including John Huston. Houston's character refers to Gittes as Gits throughout the film. Jake even corrects him once, but then lets it go. The truth is, Houston had a problem pronouncing it, and Polanski liked it because it fit the character of a rich, evil man that wouldn't care whether he got someone's name right. At the time of Chinatown's production, Jack Nicholson had just started dating Angelica Houston, the daughter of his co-star John Huston. This made their scenes together pretty uncomfortable, especially during the scene in which Cross asks Gittes, "Do you sleep with my daughter?" If anything, it added a layer of authenticity to the performance. Before Faye Dunaway had secured the role of Evelyn Mulwray, Jane Fonda was considered, but Dunaway did a better job of capturing Polanski's vision for the character of Evelyn. Polanski's own mother had penciled on eyebrows and wore red lipstick, and it was good inspiration for the makeup that Dunaway wore. Once on set, Faye Dunaway and Roman Polanski did not work well together. To say that the disagreements between Dunaway and Polanski got heated would be a massive understatement. The arguments were notorious. At one point during filming, Polanski pulled out some strands of Dunaway's hair when it got in the way of a shot, instead of waiting for hair and makeup to fix it. On another occasion, when Dunaway asked Polanski about her character's motivation, he yelled that her salary would be her motivation and told her to just say the words in the script. Polanski has said that Dunaway had problems with her lines, problems with her delivery, and was just not comfortable on set. The culmination of the disagreements occurred when Polanski refused to let Dunaway have a bathroom break. She was filming a scene in the car and needed to use the restroom, but Polanski wanted to get the scene filmed. So to pay back Polanski for being a bully director, she urinated into a cup while in the car, and when he bent down to speak with her, she threw it in his face. One problem with the original script was that the story never actually took the characters into Chinatown. It is used as a metaphor throughout the film, and Town intended for it to remain that way. But for Polanski, they had to go to Chinatown. So the film ends there, with one of the most famous last lines in movie history. "Forget it, Jake, it's Chinatown." This final line has proven quite fitting for director Roman Polanski too. Chinatown was the final film that he made in the United States before he fled to France in February of 1977. Polanski was arrested and charged with raping and drugging a 13-year-old minor, and to avoid sentencing, he fled to a country that would not extradite him back. He has never returned to the United States, but has continued to make movies overseas. Chinatown cost a reasonable $6 million when it was made. Although it is lauded as one of the best films ever made, it only made about $29.2 million at the box office. For a film that was nominated for 11 Oscars, that wasn't a huge success. In 1991, Chinatown was selected by the Library of Congress for preservation in the National Film Registry, which is reserved for films that are culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. I hope this brought back some fond memories for you, or maybe it inspires you to watch it again. Chinatown is a great movie that is fun to watch because Jack Nicholson takes so much abuse, but dishes out some great lines. Make sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and for more just like this, please consider subscribing, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so that you can be notified when I release a new video. Stay tuned for more episodes, and thank you so much for watching.